Okay, first off, what do these drums have in common? Well, for the brass and aluminum versions, they both share a rounded over 45-degree bearing edge. However, for the entire line of Starphonic snares, they feature what are called channel hoops. There's a channel right here that a claw that houses the tension rod clips into, and then that's what seats the head down. They also feature what Tama calls as freedom lugs. I call them tube lugs. Very modern retro look, sculpted design, and they're actually designed to help you change heads pretty rapidly as well. The strainer is very, very smooth. Does not take a lot of effort to operate it, and on top of that, the adjustment knob for the snares actually has ratchet-like steps in it, so it not only allows you to get micro adjustments on the snares, but also keeps things from loosening up on you. Now, as far as the aluminum shell is concerned, it is a satin finish, but it's also seamless. I think it's gorgeous. I have to agree with the review in Modern Drummer that the aluminum resembles an acrylite. I think it's a 10-lug acrylite on steroids. Now, if you don't know what an acrylite is, please do some research because this is not the History Channel. All right? So, conversely, on the flip side, the brass shell. Now, the brass one is a pretty hefty piece. However, it is not as hefty as some of the other brass shelled snares that I've come across. It is not a seamless shell. It is welded, but it's nickel plated over brass, which is equally as gorgeous. As you can see, it shares the same hoops, claws, and tube lugs, as well as the same strainer. Now, the snares that Tama designed for these drums are billed as high-carbon super sensitive. I've actually swapped them out for something else, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. But they do sound pretty good, but we'll get into that more as we go along. Quick release tension rod claw hooks. Now, the concept is that you're able to loosen the tension rod, and then the tension rod and the claw hook as one piece flip out of the way without needing to take them completely off the drum or out of the lug. Now, it's a nice feature as it keeps the rods from getting lost and maybe rolling all over the place when you're trying to change a head, say, for example, in a club where the lighting may not be the best. But the rods are a bit short. Now, if you're loosening these things and you're not paying attention and you go much past the point where they do, in fact, just simply flip off the hoop, then they're going to come out of the lug anyway, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the claw hooks. But what I found as a good technique is just to simply back them off enough so that they are free to move off the groove in the hoop. A half a turn beyond that, or a 3/4 turn, and they come right out of the lugs anyway. A nice feature inside the claw is a rubber block, and what this does is it presses up against the tension rod, preventing it from loosening up on you. So the pro to all of this, the claw hook, the channel hoop, and the tube lug, flip-out lug, is that it's a very sexy design element. It keeps the tension rods from loosening and from getting lost during head changes. However, the con is that the rods are too short. I mean, guys, come on, please, just a few more threads. Channel hoops. These remind me of S-hoops. They're very strong and they're very lightweight. The top is rounded over, similar to that of the old Slingerland stick saver hoops. There's actually a gap in the bottom hoop, which is great for the quick release strainer. More on this in a second, but you need to watch how you put it on a stand. I normally like the strainer lever around the 7 or 8 o'clock position. With the basket claws in this position on a Tama Road Pro snare stand, there's a potential for actually one of them to slip inside the gap, rest on the bottom head in the snares, and interfering with your sound and, quite frankly, the operation of the snare strainer. You'll yell out a few choice expletives if this happens. So the pro to the hoops overall, very lightweight, creates a nice bright sound, which you'll hear in a bit, and also has a very cool look. The con is that the gap in the bottom head can allow the snare basket claw to rest on the head and the snare wires. It's not a huge deal, but you just need to be aware of it. Snare strainer. Love the design. There are ratchet style grooves in the tuning knob that can keep things from potentially loosening on you. The fine threads allow for micro adjustments in the tension placed on the wires and has a very smooth operation. It's a linear design in that it works to reduce the typical slap of the snares hitting the bottom head, and also the quick release is a great feature for head changes. There are two bolts on the butt side of the strainer. It should also be noted that this side also has the ratchet style adjustment knob, so you have dual adjustability now for your snares. But once you remove these two bolts, take them completely out of the strainer assembly. I've loosened them a little bit, obviously, for the sake of time, but once you take them out, voila. The butt end and the snares move completely out of the way and allows you to keep your tension settings on the snares while you change the bottom head. Before you loosen the bolts, however, make sure you flip the snares off on the other side so that's easier to get them out. So the pro to this design is that it's very innovative. It allows you to detach the butt end for faster bottom head changes and very smooth operation. Not a lot of effort to operate it, and permits finer tuning of the snare wires. The con, however, to this design is that the lever itself on the throw-off side could be a bit larger, just to simply accommodate my big digits. Snare wires. Truthfully, the ones that came on the drums, I wasn't fond of them. I'm anal retentive when it comes to a snare drum responding like it should. The snares on that drum should respond even with the lightest touch. I mean, heck, you should even be able to blow on the head and get a response. But these snares that, I don't know, they just weren't tight sounding when the head was tapped lightly. They sounded loose and almost had a rattle to them when I was playing ghost strokes and the like. Almost as if they were stretched out, but I have a remedy. I've actually upgraded snare wires, and I'm going to get into that in the next section. But the pro to the snares, well, they look pretty, but the con is that they just don't do the job like high sensitive snares should.